Hello, how is everyone? I hope you're well. It's May the 1st. White rabbits. This is one of my favourite things about doing this bookish show of mine, this bookish channel. No, it's my bookish show. My favourite thing is the beginning of every month and choosing my next mystery book bag. Long-term viewers of this show will know that this year I began this whole project of bagging up lots and lots of my to-be-read pile in order to randomise them and give them some mystery. I got sick of seeing the same huge piles of books everywhere and feeling weighed down by them and feeling obliged to tackle them. That's not the way to think about it at all. As soon as these things become chores, some of their charm is stolen. So I decided to give myself this kind of monthly gift, a mystery book bag. And I bagged up about 2 years worth of books. They're all stacked in my study. This study is filled with books and boxes of papers, drawings and manuscripts and pages and just stuff. And now it's got all these bags of books, these tote bags, which had been looking for a use. I seem to have an awful lot of them. I love taking a tote bag out shopping, but I had a whole range of them. Anyway, they're all bagged up now with 6 books in each. I decided that on average I tend to read about 6 books a month, usually quite often more than that, but 6 is enough to put in these mystery bags to give me a bit of leeway to read a couple of extra things that I choose for myself as I go along. Earl Grey tea, perfect for the early afternoon and what is turning out to be the hottest day of the year so far. Parts of the UK apparently are going to be 29 degrees today. It's amazing. My first job, anyway, is piling up and putting on the shelf April's books. I went through my previous video, everything I'd read in April, and here they all are. It's quite a good month, in more ways than one. Supplementing my last video with this, the last book of April, and from my mystery book bag of that month, the third of the L.M. Montgomery Anne of Green Gables books, Anne of the Island, which covers her university years. All the crazy sex and drug taking and clubbing days of Anne of Green Gables. It's a really lovely book. It's not clubbing and sex and drugs. It's the equivalent. It's the 1915 equivalent in Canada. It's all about boys and about moving into student houses. It's very genteel, it's very sweet and very funny in places, and a great follow-up to the first 2 books. I think I'd read the first 2 books a couple of times, never got further, and so it's great to see where the story goes. There's 8 in the series and I've got them all. As I've said before, as a kid I couldn't read these books. I could watch the TV adaptations with my mum on the TV, fine. Going about the place, going to school, reading at school, being seen in public, reading, quotes, girls' books would have got me even more bullied in my hometown than anything else did. So I missed out on things like the Little Women books or Anne of Green Gables. And the Little House books, actually, as well. It's a real shame. It's a real lack. The most girlish, the most girly I got, allowed myself to read, was probably The Borrowers. But you get pushed down a very kind of boyish route, which ends up in science fiction, which is okay. But I would have loved to have read these books as a kid. They're much more like me. They're talking about writing stories. The chapters about where Anne learns to write stories about people and things she knows and starts sending off fiction to magazines would have, as they say these days, resonated with me massively if I'd read that at the age of 9 or 10. Who knew that was a thing? I was doing it myself. I would have loved to have read about Anne doing it. Anyway, that's all of April. My previous video goes through them all. What they've got to go on now is this shelf. This shelf is everything in 2025 so far. How's my camera? skills, non-existent. But yeah, everything there from The Forbidden by Leo Brett and Badger Publishing, and Evie Woods, all the way through to March and Star Trek V and Tessa Hadley's Free Love. It's quite an eclectic year so far, I think, which I'm really in favour of. So April goes there, almost to the end of that shelf, which is the only space I have anywhere on my shelves. So the summer is going to see some reorganisation. What I think I'll do is maybe when I get to halfway through the year, take out things that I'm not so bothered about and leave only the things that I've really loved. As I said, I've got about 4 5-star books that I've read so far this year, and a bunch of 4-star, and some which don't quite make it that high up in my estimation. These last 4 things especially have been fantastic, I have to say. So that's almost a full shelf for the first 4 months of the year, which is amazing, really. By the end of the year, I should have read 3 shelves worth of books, which is probably about right. This year, I think, is going quite well in terms of reading. I've discovered new things and new genres and collections and lists of things that I hadn't read before, things I was previously unaware of, and that's good. And brand new books as well. Not so many brand new. I think the Tessa Hadley book that I loved so much came out maybe last year or the year before. Anyway, my next thing is choosing a new bag. So I'm gonna delve under my desk, so you'll have to excuse me while I pick something out. Oh, this is actually, I will do this one. This is a really favourite book bag that I need to empty so I can use it curled up with a good book. The cat in the image looks a bit like Socks, a little bit, but a bit like Fester too. Anyway, here we are. What's coming out of the bag? I feel quite small, actually. Okay. Interesting. Right, I'll go through. Pardon me, you're stepping on my eyeball. Paul Zindel. Now, he did The Pigman, which I read last year, the year before, and it blew me away. It was a young adult novel that I'd never read before, and I knew of. It's always listed in the backs of Scholastic books, or I don't know, what was the other publisher that I used to like? Piccolo books, perhaps. Never read it, and I haven't read anything else by him. So when I read that, I kind of deliberately looked out for other things by him. Dear Marsh, we have only one life to live, and remember, this is no dress rehearsal. Whatever you do, don't let them step on your eyeball. Dad. Establishing a forceful identity leads Marsh to some pretty impressive bragging about his dates, his achievements, and his father. Yet he has to swallow the bitter truth that he has no friends until weirdo Edna appears, emotionally adrift too, and with one big problem of her own. Together they tackle the pressures to succeed and belong in a series of wild, bizarre incidents that lead to a literally explosive finish. Kids' books and YA books about outlandish outsiders are exactly my thing. Here's S.L. Howe, Sam, who I've known through Doctor Who stuff and through her own thrillers and her Facebook presence, and just being a kind of all-round good person, a good egg, as they say. This is her latest, I think. It came out last year, and I ordered it, and it arrived just as I was making up these bags. So The Soul Thief, it went into that particular bag. Manchester, 1888. Through the darkness of a midwinter night shift, the flicker of a candle flame illuminates the exhaustion in Dr. Warren Carter's eyes. memories of a painful surgery, and my eyes are going, and the fine line of human frailty haunt his every thought. A nightcap wish with the beautiful Rosie is just the tonic he needs. What should have been a pleasant encounter soon turns sinister when the young nurse disappears without a trace. One by one, more disappearances occur at the hospital until a private investigator is brought in to assist. But rather than finding answers, he becomes trapped in a nightmare of his own making. A Victorian spooky dooky mystery with dead bodies and ghostly stuff. Perfect. And then it's another Badger book. These are really hard to come by. They were both given to me by my friend Katie on New Year's Eve at a party. And The Forbidden was the one I read at the very beginning of the year. This is Plan for Conquest. In fact, this might be one that I'd got separately, I'm not sure. A. Glynn. I might have had this earlier. It started out as something novel. A company of scientists and their wives living in the prototype of the society of the future, a society governed by a huge cybernetic unit, New Society, on the remote Yorkshire moors. It's an environment in which leisure took top place. If you wanted to pour a drink, bath the baby, or even drive your car, you sat back and allowed Aunt Edie, the great man-made brain, to do it for you through her multitudinous extensions. And it worked up to a point. When that point was reached and crossed, life in New Society became a full-scale struggle for survival against a macabre enemy, a cunning adversary, which tuned the New Society experiment into a nightmare. For this was the clash between man and his own scientific ingenuity. In this unusual science fiction novel, A. Glynn tells of the attempt of a few men and women for whom time was fast running out to ward off a violent menace and halt a frightening plan for conquest. Perfect. Kate DiCamillo, The Magician's Elephant. Now, she's somebody I've read before. She writes these kind of short fabula books for kids, often about animals. I'd read The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane, which is a very kind of Hans Christian Andersen type story about a China toy rabbit. And The Tale of Despero, which is a kind of mousy story that became a movie. Anyway, I'm quite fond of her books. So that's been waiting around for me, and the book bag business will force me to read it at last. And then Clifford D. Simak, The Werewolf Principle, a pulpy-looking science fiction novel that I think I got from Bobcat Books down the road from us. They always have a lovely store of vintage science fiction and fantasy, hidden away in the corner of their back room. The best place for vintage SF and fantasy, I think. Andrew Blake, found frozen in a space capsule after 200 years on a wandering asteroid, is brought back to a strangely different Earth. In his search for identity, he suddenly becomes frighteningly aware of two alien beings that lurk within his body. With this discovery as a clue to his origin, Blake gradually unearths the mystery shrouded in werewolf. The mystery-shrouded werewolf principle, a scientific theory buried in the past that promises startling consequences for the future. Simak wrote Shakespeare's Planet, a novel I read at about the age of 11 or 12 that came from the adult science fiction section of Art Town Library, and it blew my mind. It was the strangest book I'd ever read, in that some of the characters weren't even human. They were just kind of shapes beside a lake that somehow communed with each other. That's my memory of it. And I couldn't believe what I was reading, and I loved it. And weirdly, I don't think I've read him since. So this is a great chance to go back to him. Finally, from my book bag, Ocean Vuong. Is it Vuong? On Earth, We're Briefly Gorgeous, this beautiful hardback that I picked up a little while ago. And I meant to read immediately, but I didn't. I've heard a lot of people raving about this this particular book. See, I bought this in December 2023, And it's just stood on the piles waiting. So now I'm going to be pushed into elevating it in my book pile, which is great. The blurb is quite long. What does it say? It's a letter from a son to a mother who cannot read. Written when the speaker, little dog, is in his 20s, the letter unearths a family's history that began before he was born, a history whose epicenter is rooted in Vietnam and serves as a doorway into parts of his life his mother has never known, all of it leading to an unforgettable revelation. At once a witness to the fraught yet undeniable love between a single mother and her son, it is also a brutally honest exploration of race, class, and masculinity. They always do that, don't they, in literary fiction? Not only is it this about these very specific human things, here's a list of abstract nouns, 3 of them, which we deem quite important. It's usually exile, race, and memory, desire, race, diaspora. It's always these slightly lofty terms, as if we need the elevation of the specific, the human, and the local into something more abstract and Empyrean and theoretical. And we don't, I don't think. I think it's kind of pretentious. Asking questions central to the American moment. It's very old-fashioned, isn't it? Immersed as it is in addiction, violence, and trauma, but undergirded by compassion and tenderness. That's a terrible word. On earth, undergirded by compassion. What are they thinking of? This is Jonathan Cape. They're not fools. By compassion and tenderness, on earth where briefly gorgeous is as much about the power of telling one's own story as it is about the obliterating silence of not being heard. Yeah. Oof. Stinky blurb. Dreadful. I love the fact it's about, I think it sounds like a gay boy and a single mother. That sounds nice. And the bit I dipped into and looked at a while ago was kind of poetical. Yeah, poetical. And there's the TLS review. Somebody's popped in the back. That's interesting. That's nice. A tip-in. I was talking about this the other day. When you find things slid inside your book, they're called tip-ins. I think this is from the, it seems to be marked up, and given that that looks like a print off rather than a cutout, I think this is the reviewer's own copy. That's interesting. So the reviewer for the TLS donated it to charity, so maybe that's not a good sign. But then maybe people are less keen to keep everything they read than I am. Right, so there's my 6 from the book bag for this month. They are a slimmer bunch, but that doesn't mean they're going to be quick and easy to read, of course. I have to supplement them with this. Carson McCullers' The Ballad of the Sad Cafe, which I read 20 odd years ago. It's been chosen for our local book group sometime in May, later in May. So that's got to be added in as well. Looking forward to going back and reading Carson McCullers for the first time in a long time. I think I've read almost everything that she did. She was a wonderful writer. Okay, that's me. That's the best bit of my kind of reading month now, actually kind of opening the bag and getting that mystery gift to myself. And it really works. I've forgotten what's in these bags. I'd forgotten that I had any of these, actually. So it's nice to be ambushed by this kind of generous earlier self who put together this parcel for me. Do try it if you want and let me know how you get on. Do like and subscribe and all those things. And I'm almost at 3,000 subscribers on this show. It's unbelievable. I think I'm like less than 10 short, which is kind of mind-blowing, really. Anyway, goodbye, and I will see you all again quite soon. Goodbye.